yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, which just absolutely inundated, pretty much, well, my restaurants, but a lot. Our restaurants are designed for takeout of about 10 to 15% of your sales. Now we're doing about 50% of the sales through takeout, through kitchens that are not designed to have all your orders come in 1 hour. And so restaurants are just not equipped for what's going on right now. Everyone thinks, we're getting all this takeout. It's killing us. And especially with the cost of packaging, it costs about 20% more for a takeout order than it does for you sitting at the table and I wash the plate. So a lot of the restaurant business looks like we're doing great sales, but it's a money loser for us. The supply chain that you guys hear about with Wendy's not even being able to sell hamburgers anymore because they can't get meat. Our brisket cost has doubled in the last week, whereas avocados have gone down by 50% in the last week. So what we found is luxury food items like an avocado, people aren't buying. I mean, there's been a real push from the consumer standpoint to buy just basic staples, but not the higher end things. So that's been an interesting dynamic to see on that. The 25% just does not work in our business. I have to have 100% kitchen running front of the house. They count for the 25% your employees. So an average restaurant will have 30 employees working at a time, like Highland Park Village. We seat 200 people. So guess what? I can only seat 30 people now inside because I have to count my employees towards it as well. That obviously doesn't make any sense. We have to open up, though, because our competitors are. So it's like we're being forced to lose money. And if I don't open and my customer goes down the street and I stay closed for a month, who knows if they come back? Loyalties go, a different way. So they're idiots in Austin. It's either open it all up or don't open it at all. It's this toe in the water from an operator standpoint just doesn't work. The Katie Cho Ice House, for example, we opened for one day, Friday. We got a $1,000 citation because we have a bar license, not a food license, which means we sell more than 51% alcohol. And so a lot of the bars and restaurants in town just can't open up and the governor has just been in such the gray area on opening things up that it's just created an absolute just craziness for so many of the guys in my business. Now, the PPP, which almost every restaurant took, that's great, but it runs out at the end of June, at the end of May, third week of May. So what you're finding from a lot of the restaurant operators, and I talk to these guys every day, we have Zoom calls like this, is your bills for February came in March, and most of us close the 9th or 10th of March. So a lot of this PPP money went to pay your February and early March bills, sales tax, things like that. Some paid rent, some paid about half rent for April and May. And then you're supposed to use 75% of it for your employees. Well, that money all runs out at the end of May if we don't get open back up in some semblance, because otherwise it's a slow drift to the earth and it just runs out. And I can't see the government printing out more money for us because it's already so many of these restaurant companies are already indebted. So I think to Lucy's point that July, August, September are going to be the bad months, I agree. I think, especially in the restaurant business, we ran out of cash all across the board. And fortunately, we didn't have any debt, but a lot of companies do. And you're already seeing big chains like Brio, Punch Bowl Social, just either totally shutting down or saying they're going to shut down and they'll just open back a few units back. Now, long-term change that I'm already seeing happen. One is you're going to see, obviously, a lot more takeout and curbside pickup. So that's going to take for a big design, especially in the lifestyle centers. Like I'm in this Legacy Town Center. It's like, how do you get dedicated parking up front when you're sharing parking with a lot of other retailers? That's going to be a big issue with the landlords. Another one is our footprint and number of seats. This is forcing change that was already coming to the restaurant business pre this. One is too many seats in the business, too easy to get in. You're going to see things like sports bars that people are now staying home watching things on TV. I think that's going to be under a great competition. You're going to see a lot more ghost kitchens opening up, which is going to be an interesting dynamic to see how, as a landlord, you get percentage rent. If, for example, Mi Casina had a ghost kitchen in Brook Hollow, and right now I capture that percentage rent through their sale at the store. But if they go through my portal and end up, I have a big kitchen in Brook Hollow that makes a delivery, that person thinks it's being cooked in Holland Park when it's really being cooked in a warehouse in Brook Hollow. But the sales doesn't go through. So how does the landlord end up capturing that lost sale? I think that's something from a landlord perspective to be looked at. And the last thing is that I've heard from many, many guys this late last year is CAM charges and rents have gotten so high in our business. The margins have gotten pressed so thin, and it costs so much to build out a restaurant. An average Mi Casina is about $1.5 million, $1.8 million TI. When we're looking at the risk of that with a landlord, I think you're going to see a lot more restaurants in the new era coming back and saying, we're going to do percentage rent only, and we're taking too much risk building this stuff out. And with GAAP rules anyway on accounting for the way you have to treat rent, I think you're going to see people much more cautious on committing to some type of guarantee on the lease, other than maybe the TI the landlord gives them, and then B, they're going to push more for lower rents and higher percentage. So it's been a very interesting time. We furloughed 1,800 people. We've brought back we kept 400 in the payroll. We probably brought back 400 with this 25%. I'd like to bring back more, but until the governor opens up this totally gray area of opening up, it's going to be very difficult. So you're going to see a lot of carnage in my restaurant, in the restaurant field in the next, by the end of the summer. So anyway, that's kind of my doom and gloom report.
So, hey, Ray, do you think when we have a vaccine, it goes back to normal? Or do you think, the shift is going to...
Well, I saw everyone saying the younger people are staying out. Katie Trail Ice House, we're open Friday, and we did have social distancing. We moved half the picnic tables, but we're still packed with that younger demographic. So I think they're all going to go back out on that stage. But I just think the business model of restaurants versus the rents charged, because we've all pushed it. Look, I push rents as high as anybody in the city, in the village, in other areas, but it's kind of hitting. We were kind of hitting the ceiling anyway. Now CAM charges, to Lucy's point about property taxes. Restaurant guys are looking at this going, I just can't, my margins are getting too squeezed. And I've said this before, but I think inflation in my business is going to really hockey stick up next year as capacity is shut down. We're already seeing it in beef. You're going to see it as, and the pricing power is going to go back to our suppliers. When that happens, our margins are going to get squeezed even tighter. So does it go back to the new normal? I think people go back out to eat. Yes. I think there is a little change and more people are going to be eating at home. I think they found that they like sitting out by their pool watching. These TVs we had today are great. I don't know why I'd ever want to go back to a movie theater. I'd rather eat at home and watch the new movie and then go out to get a drink or something. But that's where we are. But Mi Casino last night, our restaurants were just mobbed of people to get to-go food. And our kitchens, that's when you come to the realization is we just aren't designed for that type of business. You're designed to run dinner from 5 to 9 at night, not from 6 to 7 when everybody wants the food at the exact same time. Hey, that's why I think this ghost kitchen deal, if y'all don't know what that is you get one central kitchen. And in my case, let's say I got one in, just theoretically say Preston Center, it's in the middle. All my restaurants in a pretty wide geographical area could just feed in that one area. It's cooked, delivered in a bag, and you have no idea. Like I said, you thought you ordered out of Holland Park and it's cooked in some industrial kitchen somewhere, but it's going to rip sales out of, 10 to 20% away from the landlord that we captured today. And so that's going to be a downward drip because you're going to go back and say, well, I used to do 1,000 a foot in sales, and you go back to your landlord and say, I'm doing $800 a foot in sales. And they're saying, well, but your sales are off site. How can you prove up where that sale comes from? So, but you're seeing that in all sorts of e-commerce, soft good retailers, and now it's going to be coming to the restaurant business.
Hey, Ray, are you requiring your staff people to wear masks, or is that an option, or how are you doing?
Yeah, they're all wearing masks and gloves, all of them. Yeah. So anyway, but that would be an interesting discussion offline for the guys that want to talk about in the retail sense of this shift, because your rent's going to be under tremendous pressure from from the restaurant side, which up till a few months ago was kind of the best part of our business, was grabbing percentage rent from these high grossing restaurants, but it's going to be a game changer.
Ray, I think it's a chance to go back to the city and change some of the requirements that the city has on 10 per thousand parking for covered patios.
Yeah.
I think that the city is dying to say, how do they help economic development? And there's got to be a few things that can be accomplished there.
Right.
And Lucy, we did put that on our agenda. We've already sent that recommendation to City Council.
And I don't know what other ideas there might be. I sadly had one great restaurateur tell me that in the future, we're just going to have to see restaurants as an amenity to the development, not as a profit center.
Yeah. Well, and Lucy, we looked at geofencing the village for retail sales with some of our retailers to capture sales, and that might be the next step to capturing that. But I'm looking at it from a restaurateur saying, well, this is great. I capture 6% more by offshoring my takeout, offloading that deal. So that's just something that, now you're not going to get the little mom and pop restaurant because they can't afford a ghost kitchen, but the bigger concepts are going to be able to pull that off. I looked at cheesecake sales this morning. They've up from 10% takeout, and they're at about 50%. And you get a high volume operator like that, it makes sense to go build an offsite kitchen. So,
Well, look at the franchisees. That's going to be a conundrum.
Yeah, it is. It's going to compete with them. So.
Anybody else have any other questions?